Yo, grand rising, everybody. How you doing? How you doing? This is your coach Renz, and today we are back on our live schedule, and we are discussing common myths concerning the afterlife. If you're finding me for the first time, this is a Christian deconstruction channel where we deconstruct Christianity for those of us who have already decided to walk away from this religion. If you are Christian, this channel is not geared towards you, not trying to change you or anything of the sort. But looking forward, we just have great conversations. Please be respectful in all manners of conversation, as um, I will block you if you are not respectful. So when you come on, let me know who you are and everything, especially if you're on Facebook. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Uh, Last week, the Facebook comments weren't coming up. So I want to make sure that Facebook comments are coming up. So if you are on Facebook, please let me know. Just say something so I know that the Facebook comments are being seen. Got two fans on, so hopefully that noise won't be irritating to you. Let me get my notes ready. Let me know who you are, where you're at. If this is your first time being on the live with me, let me know. Like I said, we take about 5 minutes before we actually get started. At some point, I will have my cigar in the midst of all of this. But if you're on Facebook, and I see that there are at least 9 people on Facebook, I need somebody on Facebook to put a comment or some sort in there. See if it comes up. Actually, I don't have any comments. Where are my comments? Hold on. Oh, there we go. I didn't even have the comments things where I can even see anybody's comments. Okay. All right. I see the Facebook comments. So Facebook is acting well this time. Wisconsin. All right. Thank you for joining us, Tony. I got Marsha from Wildwood, Illinois. The Pastor Fields. Over on Facebook. Good job. Good job. So we know Facebook is working, so I don't have to have it on here to make sure I see comments. So we're good to go. So like I said before, this channel, we discuss the reasons and the topics and subject matters that allowed us to deconstruct from Christianity. We further dive deeper into those subject matters of breaking down things historically and accurately based on facts and not what people believe. Yes, word one. Word one is. I had a great day today. Great day today. Got to the gym and enjoyed time with my wife, having a good time. Terry, first time catching live. Finally, great out of Tampa. I used to live in Tampa, out in Brandon. Coach, you going to debate Wes? I mean, if Wes call me, if Wes contact me, am I going to go out there and specifically look for Wes? I don't have any reason to. You see, the thing about debates for me is I have no reason to, I don't need to validate my information or my thoughts based on a person who is Christian. A Christian person is basing their beliefs and what they call facts simply on beliefs. There is nothing to debate there. You can't debate belief, but what we can debate are actual facts and how people view those facts. And if Wes Huff did contact me, I would debate him. It wouldn't be in his best interest. You know, he would lose simply because his recognition of facts are not the way you properly recognize facts. It is based on his preconceived notions, his confirmation bias, by which he decides what is a fact and what is not. Let me see. I forgot to put this up. See if it'll block some of the fan sounds. Even though it's cold, this is also our cigar room in the house. So we just finished a couple of cigars, finished the cigar. So got the window still open and the fans and the air purifiers are still on. Hopefully that noise won't bother you guys too much. Right. Even though Billy Carson messed up in that debate, West's information still doesn't validate his beliefs. So that validated his facts. And like I've said before on many times, I'm 50-50 with Billy Carlson. And I find it humorous that many of the Christians who come on my pages seem to think that I gathered my information based on Billy Carlson, and like I know the guy and follow the guy. And, you know, I did follow him back in the day, you know, but he went off the deep end. So I was like, nah. But today we are going to discuss common myths and beliefs about the afterlife, because what we can know is that throughout recorded history, man has had a fascination with what happens after we pass on from this existence, after we so-called die. Man has been fascinated with it. Man has wondered about it, has been curious about it, has asked questions, have theorized, ultimately coming up with different religious perspectives and philosophical and psychological perspectives on what happens. Scientifically, we've developed different techniques in understanding energy and consciousness, but only to like the smallest of degree. We still have a long way to go before we can truly answer this question. But what we can talk about is some of the myths surrounding it, and go ahead and remove those from our thought process. Hey, Debbie, how you doing? Miss Debbie Tate, tried and true. But we can remove a lot of the preconceived ideas and notions that people have about death and how it has evolved over time and cultures. Now, we can spend hours just going over the different religions throughout ancient history, what we call ancient history, up until today of known history, put it that way, of known history, and just be stuck there. So we're going to cover some of those, but we're not going to cover every thought process on this subject matter. So when we look at these ideas of the afterlife, they're all going to be based on the different cultures and time frame by which somebody developed their philosophy concerning the afterlife. When we one of the first hearings of an afterlife that we have discovered thus far, some of them date back to the Kemetic and the Sumerian concept of an afterlife. Now, the Sumerian concept of the afterlife is not that deep. We don't have a lot. They didn't speak a lot about the afterlife, almost to a degree where you can draw a conclusion that the Sumerians did not have much of a thought process on the afterlife as far as us going somewhere and living for eternity or finding immortality in any form or fashion. It was something that was sought after by people like Gilgamesh, finding immortality. It was something that Atrahasis supposed, or Utnapishtim in the story. It was Utnapishtim in that story that Utnapishtim was able to achieve and was gifted immortality. But immortality and the afterlife is not exactly the same thing. They are vastly different. Immortality is your continued existence in this realm, this matter plane of existence. Whereas an afterlife was not something that the Sumerians spoke highly of. One, you joined us from California. Are you safe in California? Are the fires far away from you? I hope the fires are far away from you out there in California. I'm gonna go ahead and sidetrack for just a second for not that question, not that part, for my man here. Okay, you're safe from the fires. Good. What validates the emerald tablets? I've studied them a little bit, but I keep being told that they aren't real. The emerald tablets are kind of like a cheat sheet for the Corpus Hermeticum. The Corpus Hermeticum is a gathering of Hermetic ideas that have been a part of multiple cultures. It was brought together by, I think his name is Focini, but Cosimo Medici had one of his people put it together back in the 1400s, and it's basically it's wisdom that they were able to gather out of Egypt, out of the Levant, out of Greece, out of the Mesopotamia, from in this valley, and then they create the corpus hermeticum was then put together, and then the emerald tablets come out of that. Now, are there actual emerald tablets? Who knows? Is the information validated by the corpus hermeticum? Sure. Are there the 9 lords and all this stuff? Not in a way that you should be following some god. So that's, but go research Black Bandana. Look, read the corpus hermeticum. That is more in detail. Wayne from Australia, how you doing? Massachusetts in the room. All right, so back to the subject matter at hand. So where I left off was the fact that the first real time that we start hearing about an afterlife starts with the Kemetic people. In all honesty, the Kemetic people were some of our oldest recorded information about people existence happening beyond this matter plane that we exist in now. So when you look at their formation, their thought processes on the afterlife, most of this information comes from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And according to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, you have to live a life according to the 42 Confessions of Ma'at, which many scholars accept the fact that the 10 Commandments of your Bible, that they have some similarities to those, as some of the same confessions are part of your 10 Commandments, as well as the next 10 that they came up with after they changed the first 10. And so in the Book of the Dead, the way that it worked for the Kemetic people is that they believe that your Ka, your soul, that if you follow these 42 Confessions of Ma'at, you would have yourself buried. Your brain will be pulled out because they felt that your consciousness was in your heart, and your heart will be placed in jars as well as other items, and then you will be buried with those, and you're buried with a copy of the Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead gave you spells that you are able to cast on your journey as you are led by Anubis through until you get to the halls of Amenti. Once you get there, your heart is then measured against a feather, the feather of Ma'at. If your heart is found heavier, and the heaviness of the heart is based on you being able to say the confessions of Ma'at: I have not stolen, I have not murdered, I have not coveted, I have not, all these different things. That is a good sense of morality. And by saying all these things, then you have not done, then your heart is lighter than the feather. Now, if your heart is found to not be lighter than the feather, then the crocodile deity, I think it's Amenet. I know I'm getting the name wrong. Let me make sure I get it right. Who devours your heart if it's harder, heavier than a feather? Amut, A-M-M-U-T. I knew it started with an A, but Amut or Amit, you can spell it A-M-M-I-T. Thank you. Her name. Thank you, Maria. Then your heart is consumed by Amit, and then you go into oblivion. You just cease to exist. If your heart is heavier, you have two options depending upon what time frame you're looking at as far as the reading of the Book of the Dead and what the Kemetics were saying, because we're talking about people who were in existence for like 5,000 years. So of course their stories and their processes, their religions are going to change. In one instance, if your heart is heavier, then Anubis goes into the council with these 12 or 13 elders. And then with these elders, they debate on whether or not you still should gain entry into the field of reeds, which is their version of heaven. If you gain entrance into the field of reeds, based on their debate, then you're good to go. And at other later writings of the Book of the Dead, the son of Asar Aset, Heru or Horus, would be your advocate. He would be your lawyer. He would take on your case, so to speak, or take on your sins. And he would advocate for you to have entrance into the uh, field of reeds. And then their idea is that you went into the field of reeds and you got to live a life similar to the one that you were living beforehand, but it was just a little bit better. So like if you was a farmer, you would still be farming in the field of reeds. It wasn't the grand paradise of not having to do anything for the rest of your existence, but you actually just lived a similar life. Uh, Kind of like how in Christianity, when this New Jerusalem come down, you're supposed to just be living in this New Jerusalem, you know. So you're just living in a new earth, right? So you don't have that situation occurring. Well, I mean, that's their situation where that's where you just live a similar life to the one that you was living before. So that was their idea. Now their idea has some problems, right? Of course, the first problem is that their gods don't exist. That's the first problem. The Hall of Menti, in the way that they talk about it, doesn't exist. Anubis, Heru, none of those deities actually exist. But the other problem is that the idea of oblivion doesn't exist. They didn't mean like your energy still existed, but it was just scattered. They meant like you ceased to exist. Your energy is completely and utterly destroyed. They didn't have the concepts of science that let us know that energy can never be destroyed, only transmuted from one form to the next form, and that's it. So uh, that's problematic for science. We know better now. They didn't know at that time frame, and many of the thought processes of people was simply because they did not know. And so the oblivion part is an issue. The advocacies part is an issue. If you were poor, you wouldn't be able, you may not be able to afford to have a scribe to create for you a book of the dead. And so poor people wouldn't even make it to judgment if they weren't able to have somebody make a book of the dead. So it was imperative. Being a scribe would have been a good job because it was imperative that you get a book of the dead before you died, no matter uh, how you live. You know, how no matter how you live, no matter how much money you made, you need to have a book of the dead. So being a scribe would have been a good job back then, right? Uh, I'm trying to read, make sure I'll see if I'm missing anything that's on point with the conversation. Right? If you was a scribe, you can create your own book, exactly. So if you was a scribe, you was good to go. But if you was poor, you was a dirt farmer, you was shit out of luck, you know, as far as being able to get a book of the dead created for you. Now, I'm gonna later on, the Babylonians, and it's somewhat Assyrians, but mainly the Babylonians, when the worship of Marduk became very popular in Proto-Babylon, and then in the Babylon that was around the 6th century BCE, you had the belief that Marduk was saying that if you would worship Marduk and love Marduk and give all that you are to Marduk, then you would, when you die, you would go and live in heaven, in this heavenly abode, live in the sky. They actually thought they was talking about the sky, the heavens, that you would go and live in the heavens with Marduk. And the reason I bring this part up is because we know some of this idea was brought forward out of the Babylonian captivity, because I want to keep this centered around our deconstructing from Christianity. So the Babylonians had this idea of going and living with God, Marduk, because Marduk, they changed the Akkadian, Sumerian, Assyrian versions of the stories in Babylon and made it where Marduk was the creator of the earth and Lord over the earth, and that he slain his mother, the dragon, and made the earth and the heavens and so on and so forth. And he becomes El. He becomes Yahweh in that sense. And uh, the goal, Marduk then was the king of the earth, and he decides that you go to heaven with him if you are a true worshiper of Marduk. Right? Maria said, I believe it is also true for Ishtar that through her death and resurrection and in Krala, that you would be that you would be given a happy afterlife. I haven't read that about Ishtar. What I've read about Ishtar is that she believed that she was able to grant men immortality by having sex with her. I haven't read where you would go to heaven with her, but I have read some inscriptions where she was saying that she can grant you immortality. But that would be, I'll research that one. Yes, in some translations, Ishtar is the wife of Marduk, so maybe that I could see that point being made. So you had that type of teaching that was going on in that time frame, in that era, around 500 BCE by the Babylonians, and they were, of course, one of the greater powers of that time frame. Now, we also had the ideas. Now, how do I want to do this? Okay, so I want to throw a couple of people in together, like the Greeks, the Romans, the Druids, the Vikings, many of your European worship systems. In many of those systems, and this is where and you will see this in the Bible, and you'll see how they copied some of these things. In their beliefs, there were different levels of heaven. This is more than likely why Dante's Inferno, he made the different 7 levels of heaven and 7 levels of hell. And probably why the Muslims still have this type of a belief. But in most of the European beliefs of afterlife, you didn't necessarily go to heaven. Everybody went to the underworld. And that was very much the same as the Jewish people prior to about 200 CE. Well, about 100 to 200 CE is when the Jewish started changing their afterlife situation. Prior to that, they believed that everyone went to Sheol. And that idea can easily be seen by them being conquered by the Greeks. During their time frame in the 200s BCE, 300, 200 BCE being conquered by the Greeks, what you see is this idea of Hades. And Hades wasn't just one level of a place. It depended upon how you lived your life as to what happened in Hades. We covered this when we went over the creation story of the Greeks. But in the creation story of the Greeks, we talked a little bit about how if you were a warrior and you died in battle, you went to Elysium. So anytime you've heard people talk about Elysium, that's where they get it from. You went to Elysium. It is similar and just like Valhalla, that when you die as a Viking and you have to die in battle, then you get to go to Valhalla, where you get to party and tell your war stories and drink and eat and have sex and all these sorts of things. So Elysium was similar to that. We can also throw the Aztecs and Mayans into the same type of mindset where there was different levels of heaven. And if you were like a bad person, then you went to Tartarus. That was like hell. That's why in the Bible, Paul, when he mentions hell, the word there is actually Tartarus, because that is the negative place in the underworld, because everybody goes to the underworld. If you were a mother and you was a good mother, you went to a different place. If you were a king, you went to a different place. So you went to different places within the same underworld based on how you live your life and what station you had in life, right? So I'm sorry. Our good old friend Fred is back. Fred said, I'm going down. We got Wild Billy Carson. How he say we when Fred didn't have one conversation with Billy Carson? But anyway. And Billy Carson is not quiet right now. He is still making all his videos, so I don't know what you're talking about, Fred. But anyway, so you had different places within heaven. So in many cultures, you have this idea that everybody goes to the underworld, but depending upon your life, you go to different places, and not all, and it's not as binary as the Christian heaven and hell. See, one of the problems with the Christian heaven and hell is the fact that it isn't completely binary, which leaves a lot of problems and questions when you conceptualize any type of heaven and hell. I mean, think about it. You got a person living in Indonesia right now, never heard of Christianity, never heard of Yahweh, never heard of Yahshua, never heard of any of these Levantian religions, was a great person, nice, took care of the neighborhood, the people, raised good family, didn't do anything to harm anybody, wasn't breaking laws. But according to Christianity, you just go to heaven and hell. That's it. And those people will go to hell. Whereas a person who claimed Christianity but committed all types of heinous activities, they can go to heaven just by confessing at the last moment that they believe in this Jesus and truly believe in this Jesus, this Yeshua, and then they get to go to heaven. And you have a person like Gandhi, who was racist, was killing Africans while he was in the military, changed his philosophy, changed his life, became a good person, never practiced Christianity, didn't believe in Jesus as the Son of God or God himself, yet he goes to hell. Hitler, who believed that he was doing God's work, believed in Jesus, he get to go to heaven because he believed in Jesus and he thought that he was doing God's work. It don't make no sense. I mean, to use a double negative right there, it don't make no sense, right? Have you ever spoke to a black Hebrew Israelite? Yeah, I wasted some of my time doing that once before. What was this? Also, most pagan faiths don't have the idea that lack of belief in their God or God would make you go to hell, but place salvation on virtues, works, not faith or belief. Exactly, and that's how most of the religions back in the day were. How you lived your life made more of an impact on what happens at the end of your life than belief. If you really look at the Bible, it is Paul who really changes the mindset and makes it where all you have to do is believe. Even though there are writings in there that says faith without works is dead, and Jesus' character said that you will do things and I won't know your ass. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm glad you caught me, Maria. I got two Marias on here. Hey, Coach, what are your thoughts on God being a woman? Because every person on earth was birthed from a woman except Adam, who was created from dirt according to the Bible's God. I do not. So if there was a God, if there is a God, jury's still out. If there is a God, that God would not be male or female, but be androgynous, holding both masculine and feminine energy, almost like a hermaphrodite. Because based on Hermetic law and based on the laws of the universe, which is the Hermetic laws, you cannot manifest anything with just masculine energy, nor can you manifest anything with just feminine energy. A lot of people like to say that God is a woman, but show me a woman that can have a baby without having some type of male influence. Show me a woman that can seed, fertilize her own eggs without sperm. It's impossible. It doesn't happen. Animals that do not need to have sex, they are asexual. They have both male and female sex organs, like an earthworm. So if there is a God, if there is some being, It cannot have just one side of the coin. It has to have both masculine and feminine, right? So we get this idea of the divine mother. Wait a minute, where was that at? The divine mother, because we can physically see with our eyes and know that babies are born from the woman. But we know without the male, the woman can't have shit. Without the woman, the man can't have shit. So it takes two to tango in order for it to work. So putting the woman, nah, doesn't work. Now you're right. There are female all lesbian species that reproduce the whiptail lizards through parthenogenesis. I give you that. Parthenogenesis. It happens in lizards and some lower complex life forms. But the overwhelming majority of the universe, of everything in the universe, so let me not say everything. The overwhelming majority of existence in the universe requires the masculine and the feminine in order to produce anything. We can always grab onto the one thing here or there, but that one thing does not supersede the all. And humans, mammals, will never be able to do parthenogenesis. It will only be in lizards and things of that, serpents. So we can't to go down that one pathway and then attach that to women is a far cry. And you can't even say that they're asexual. They're not male or female. They're both. They're both. They have to be both in order to produce, even through parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis just means they don't need another entity like their own to do it. It's like an earthworm doesn't require that. So that whole thing, nah. It's like lizards can also regrow their tails and humans cannot. Exactly. So we need both male and female to do that. And if the whiptail lizards don't have any, if they're all female, okay. It doesn't make for the whole. It has absolutely. If you were God, if you were to conceptualize a God, why would you make everything else in the universe require masculine and almost everything else require masculine and feminine in order to reproduce, in order to create? And then, but you don't utilize the same format. You do parthenogenesis, and you only put that in this minor little lizard, and for hundreds of thousands of years, no one knows this, and they get it all confused and mixed up and create their own, their own ideas, and we only find these things out like here in the 21st century. That's about as poor planning as the Bible God does. So can't do that. Let's not do that. Oh my gosh. Y'all know I'm just being an ass for doing this, right? Did y'all know that Wast Huff will be coming for you, sir? Soon, get ready in Yeshua name. I didn't know who is Wast Huff. Do y'all know who Wast Huff is? My man. So anyway, back to the subject matter. We're y'all see why y'all can't let me get through my subject matter first before y'all start distracting me and everything. All right. And see, this is the messed up part. Females BD life bringer overstand. Again, Raw, whatever your name is, Raw. I'm gonna just call you Raw because you put all that. I didn't see Vital in there. But anyway, show me a woman that without the help of a man or sperm bring life. Show me one. Just because you are the carrier doesn't make you the creator. Okay? This is, and sometimes I think this is feminism on drugs, right? It's feminism on drugs because you want to uplift one and put down another instead of just being uplifting, period. Instead of just recognizing what's facts and what's not facts. I'm not of the Bible where I cast women down as subservient, where women are punished or women are pretty much hated in the Bible, in the Quran, in the Torah, and most other religions. It's just the simple facts that no woman can create a baby without the seed of a man. It just cannot happen. Just because you carry it doesn't make you the bringer of life, because you will have no life without the other. I don't see what's so hard to understand about that. I mean, that's a whole nother level of cognitive dissonance of I want women to be on top, so I'm gonna run with this, even though I know that a woman can't do this by herself. And here's the thing, Raw, neither can a man. Neither can a man. And no man has ever been created without a woman. And no woman has ever been created without a man. Adam of the Bible never existed. So we can go ahead and take that whole Genesis story and kick it to the curb, because Adam was not made from dust. Man is not made from dirt. If you saw the video I did where I was talking about Steve Harvey and his stupidity about evolution, the common ancestor came before man. So the common ancestor was there first. Where the common ancestor came from, who knows? But it came from something else. Sister Raw, okay, that's what you want to be called. All right, got it. I understand what you're saying. The woman is the carrier, the woman is the nurturer, but that doesn't make the woman the creator. That's my point. So, like I said, if you can show me how a woman can create a baby without a man, without the seed of a man, I'll give it to you. But until you can demonstrate that, the woman is just a carrier. She's just a carrier. And no, a man can't carry a baby. It's not how we're built. It's just nature. But show me a woman that can birth a baby, that can create a baby by herself without the seed. I'll give it to you. But you can't. It's impossible. It's impossible. So to keep moving. Cloning is different. Cloning is different. Cloning is just taking the genetic material that is already there, which has both masculine and feminine in it, and making a copy. That's just making a copy of something. You know, that's like a copy machine. You just made a copy. It really doesn't touch on the nature of creating, but they still have to have that first Dolly. Dolly still had to have been created by the masculine and the feminine. But you live today, I guess the followers need to pay their dues. Sure, Prima. Go ahead and support the channel right there, Prima. And for anybody else who desires to support the channel, that is the best way to do so, and I greatly appreciate it. It's not asked for, it's not required. So that part. Got to revisit that claim. They found proof of a recent that Adam and Eve existed. They put an article out about it. I would find that highly suspect of an Adam and Eve actually being. How can you have Adam and Eve existing if Adam and Eve would have existed 6,630 some odd years ago, right? According to the Bible, the biblical timeline. Yet we have evidence of the Kemetic society being in existence prior to that. The Sumerians, the people of Göbekli Tepe and Taran Tepe being in existence prior to that. There were people in the Americas prior to that. There were people in the Indus Valley in China and all over the world prior to 6,600 something thousand years ago, which places it at 4,600 something BCE. So there are literally millions of people known to be in existence, or societies. There are plenty of societies indicating millions of people being in existence prior to the Adam and Eve story. So it doesn't work. It still doesn't make them the procreators of the world. So Adam and Eve wouldn't exist. And how would they know it's Adam and Eve? What, somebody wrote on a piece of stone, here lies Adam and Eve. And we say, okay, yeah, that's it. How do we DNA test that? How do we verify? How do we validate that? We don't. We can't. We can't. So no. Anyway. Well, damn, Primer. Why you gonna talk about supporting the channel, but you don't want to support my cigar habit? And speaking of which, I got some of my favorite cigars for the holidays. Speaking of which, if you smoke cigars, the Ron Harper Underrated is a great cigar. You personally believe the ceiling of civilization is around 20,000 to 2,500 years ago? I think it goes further than that. I think it goes further back, simply just with the last ice age back 50,000 years ago. Okay, so let's get back to the subject. I don't know if Eric was talking to me. I don't know, but I'm gonna take this so we can get back to on a subject here. I wrote down notes, so we're gonna talk about this thing. Explain to me what the soul is, and how something that you can't explain can create something without a soul. I don't know if Eric meant that for me or not, but let's get back to souls and the afterlife, people. Then we can get into the other stuff. Y'all are horrible. Just let y'all know. So we left off with the different levels that the Greeks had and how that influenced Christianity and Judaism. And so smoking cigars is not hazardous to my health, but my cigars are not up for debate. I'm sure you got a habit that's not good for you either. Now, here's the thing. We have this binary idea. Now, that binary idea of heaven and hell is a reduction from the Greek idea of Hades, which is the underworld, and its different levels. The other biggest idea that people have is reincarnation. How many of you guys think that reincarnation is a real thing? I'll wait. How many of you guys think that reincarnation is a real thing? Pot smokers and leave the fuck alone. Right. Even worse, if you eat meat, meat ain't got shit on this. Especially if you eat meat in America, it ain't got nothing on this. Any of that processed food ain't got nothing on this. Them processed box shit that people eat ain't got nothing on this. That's why I always tell anybody who says something about my cigars, like, show me your whole diet. Write down your diet for a month and then send it to me. And let's see what you eat. Sister Raw, where you at? You writing like you Rasta. You know what's interesting? Many of the if Sister Ra is Rasta, many of the Caribbean Taino deities and the West African deities, tobacco was used as a healing for healing, as well as being used in order to contact the spirit realm. Okay, no blood, good. Wholly vegetarian, good. That's nice. Reincarnation. Okay, so Charles, you appreciate a good cigar as well. Ron Harper, underrated. It's a good cigar. So what I mean by reincarnation is that you existed and lived a life on earth. You died because you weren't ready to go to heaven or hell. And then you come back and live another life again. A lot of the Eastern traditions, Buddhism, the Indus religion, they believe that until you satisfy your dharma, until you satisfy your ka, you will cycle back. When you go through samsara, and a couple of years ago we did a talk about samsara. Samsara, I like the way they explained it. Is really it makes more sense than the Bible, in that you enter into this void and then there are lights and you have the choice of going into the light and going to nirvana or samadhi, and then these demons come in, but these are demons that you created from your own mind. Until you realize that's if you don't realize that, you will be in fear and you will choose one of the portals for however long you sit in fear. And after you sit in fear, you will choose to escape. And although you can still go to samadhi, you often choose the portal because you haven't satisfied your dharma, and you choose a portal that leads you back to earth, and you come back to earth and relive a life again. Hopefully this time you will, figure it out. I think you reincarnate because you didn't learn anything. And that's kind of the idea in many of the Eastern religions. You reincarnate because you didn't figure out how to live your life to satisfy your past transgressions on humankind, on life. And so you have to keep doing it till you raise up above your dharma. And then you can go and you'll recognize when you're going through samsara to go into the actual heavenscape. For a time, my thought process was that you reincarnated until you figured it out. And that figuring out had nothing to do with none of the religions of man. But one of the problems I have with reincarnation, how would you know that you were reincarnated? You wouldn't remember none of your past lives. So the existence that you're having right now, you're not going to remember any of it. And then yet you were born into a whole nother family, brought up believing whatever religion it is. Unless there's an innate thing inside of you that carries forward, that allows you to break free from whatever you were being taught, you're just going to go through the same cycle over and over again. If that's the case, there is such a low percentage of people on the planet who will ever break free and remain constantly reincarnating. But what happens in 3 billion years when the earth can no longer sustain the type of life that we understand life to be, and it becomes a barren rock and burn because our sun has become a red giant and there is no life on earth? What happens to your being at that point if you haven't figured it out? What happens to those last crew of people? Maybe they don't escape earth and find another earth to go to in 3 billion years. Technology doesn't go. Or maybe we blow ourselves up with a nuclear war and everybody dies. If everybody is dead, then how do you reincarnate? I thought about this. What is the purpose of dreams? Do you think that they touch on maybe your past life? No. Most of my dreams touch on the life that I live or the life that I have lived, right? I was going to do a video where I had this dream about a week ago where I came to my grandmother's house. My grandmother was there. Now she's passed away. My grandmother was there, but she was unhappy and the house was filthy, which is odd because my grandmother's house was never filthy, but the house was filthy, but she was sitting there sad. And my mother and her 2 sisters, my 2 aunts, were sitting there as well. And they were all unhappy. And they were all Christians. Now they're all Christians. And they were all unhappy. Now, then my 2 daughters came, and my daughters are like me to a certain degree. And I instructed them to take these shovels and start scraping up the floor and cleaning the floor. And the more they cleaned out the hallways, then my grandmother and them, who were trapped on the back porch, were able to walk around the house and get through the house. And it was as if they was clearing away the clutter of teachings that they had in the past, that they grew up in, that they believed in. And then I left and they were happy. It had nothing to do with a past life. I think it had more to do with my thought process on what happens to people who are Christian and they believe that they're supposed to go to this heaven, and then they find out that they're not going. That is not what they had it all cracked up to be. That most people mindset is that they don't deserve a heaven, right? And I have had dreams where I thought I was experiencing a past life. I thought that I was this woman back in New York in the 1940s, 1930s, 40s. I thought that I was this Chinese guy back in the 1500s and so on and so forth. But the more and more I thought about it, and then I had the repeat of those dreams, most of those dreams were based on movies as I looked deeper into it, it was based on movies that I had seen, television programs I had seen, or thought processes that I've had. I do not think they were me touching on a past life. So I think that your dreams are something that you are just manifesting within yourself, and some of those deeper thoughts that you don't recognize that are in your subconscious, and then you dream it. Now, the only thing that gives me a little bit of pause when it comes to dreams is the fact that deja vu. Where the hell does deja vu come from? And so I think, don't know, can't prove it, but I think deja vu comes from you dreaming about an event that happens. You forget about it, forget that you dreamed it, and then when it starts happening, it's really the dream that you had. So I think you can go forward and touch the future. I don't think you can go back and touch the past. And the future you only touch is the future that is within your lifespan. It's not a future it's not a past. And I understand, Maria. I've met people, felt like I've known them for a long time. I think that you just met somebody that y'all just have a good energy, a good connection with. That's how I always seen it. Like everybody, the few people that I call friend, each one of them, we had an immediate connection. Even Brandon, we had an immediate connection. Let's see. The deja vu is the different timelines that we live, and the timelines merge, creating deja vu. So how can I have deja vu about cars or being in a house that now when you say timeline, do you mean like a multiverse or do you mean in the past? Because if it's the past, then the cars of the 1930s, 40s are not the cars we have today. So when I know that this blue Mustang is going to drive down the street, that can't be from the past. Now, if you're talking about a multiverse, that's a whole nother thing. I got a lot of research to do on multiverse before I really can speak on a multiverse. I'm not actually sold on it. Now, afterlife, damn it. We can never stay on subject. I got to reel y'all back over and over again. Reincarnation, there is the scientific fact that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Something happens to your energy. Something happens to your consciousness. We still don't really know what the consciousness is, like where it is, where it abides within the body. I personally, I think the consciousness is part of your brain, your brain, your heart, your stomach, and your genital area, because each one of those have shown. I know the heart, the mind, the heart, and the stomach have neural pathways that are similar. This is why we have gut instinct. This is why we can emotionalize thoughts. We can reason thoughts and logically think through thoughts. There is a sexual brain that is at work. So I think that the consciousness exists as a part, is a whole of all four parts, right? Could be wrong. We don't know yet. But it lives inside of this meat suit until this meat suit dies, and then that energy leaves. Now, what happens to that energy is the question of afterlife, right? What happens to that energy? Does it stay cohesive? Many people believe that it stays cohesive, and sometimes it gets stuck, and that is why you have ghosts, or people believe in ghosts. But they have never been able to prove ghosts exist. People have believed that their ancestors are walking around, that there's something on earth that they were supposed to do, or even in the Eastern thought process of chakras, that they maintain the earthly attachments and never open their crown chakra and remain stuck. It is not widely taught in this religion or the Buddhist religion, but when they do, but some that I have spoken to, when they talk about chakras, they say that the spirits that people are seeing or dealing with are people who weren't able to open their crown chakra, and so they still hold on to their earthly attachments. Even worse are the ones who are still feeling guilt and shame and still feeling disconnected, and then they remain on earth. I told them that it sounds good. You can make it sound like it makes sense, but until you can prove it, It's just a theory. So the consciousness, which will be equal to the soul, is still a virtual, is very unknown. We know that, here's the thing, we know that you have a consciousness, but we don't know what it is. We don't know where it comes from, and we don't know where it goes. We have no idea what happens to it. No, Sean, I don't think ghosts exist. I don't think ghosts exist. I'm I'm gonna get to what I think of all of this in just a second, because I can see right now we're not gonna be able to go through my notes in the way that I wrote my notes down, because y'all like to jump all over my notes. Y'all, we not hit parts that I wasn't even supposed to talk about yet. Oh, to hell with it. Let's go ahead. Well, here's a bit of information. I know in Hinduism you are judged by King Yama, through the God you worship. If you are faithful, can intercede for you and grant you a better afterlife. Cool. You see, people have all these different, and there's always some salvation outside of yourself. There's always something outside of yourself. Right. So by that logic, Earth is a prison, and so is hell. Then Earth is hell. And according to some variations of Christianity, like Gnosticism, Earth is a prison and Earth is hell. Okay. This actually was the next thing that I was going to talk about. So thank you, the Bronze Yo report. Bronze. Appreciate this, Bronze. Let's talk about NDEs. Wait a minute. Wait. Is it a spirit, or is it your emotions, or is it the emotions of other people overwhelming you? Like my grandmother used to say all the time, voodoo don't work unless you believe it works. So no one can send their energy to disrupt my energy unless I believe that they can do that. And in some of the higher levels of some of the mystic arts, as they like to call them, being able to control your emotions and being able to control your energy and thought process will keep from anything hindering you. There's an African proverb that says that if there is no devil within, then no devil without can do you no harm. So as far as spirits, I see that as the energy of other people. Also, it is conditioning. If you grow up in a society where you see people catching the Holy Spirit, or they're being possessed by different orishas and things of that nature, then you will naturally gravitate to that and make it believable for yourself. You see, the mind is an incredibly powerful thing. Thank you. Somebody just said this. The mind is very, very powerful. The mind can create and manifest things without what we know to be causations. So for a very short period of time, I worked as a CRA, as a clinical research associate. And do you know that we have to allow for 70% of the people who go on the placebo, when we do a double blind, that 70% of the people on the placebo drug, which would be like just a wafer or a pill or just water or something, it's not the real drug, it's like nothing, that they will have the same recovery as the people who are on the drug, that they will have the same resistance, they will have the same benefits, they will have the same, what's that thing called? Side effects as the people who are taking the actual drug. And we allow for 70% of the placebo people to do that, because if you believe you are taking the actual drug and we tell you these are the benefits, These are the side effects. Depending upon what belief they have that is strongest, that's what that person is going to demonstrate, right? So, Renee, I just asked for proof. You say you know spirits walk the earth. How? Why? How? You have to be able to prove it. Or you can say, I believe spirits walk the earth. And that could be your theory, because some of the stuff I'm going to talk about in a minute is just a theory. I cannot prove it. Now, that brings me back to NDEs. All my life, from as far back as I can remember as a child, I have always heard about people dying and seeing this light and going into the light. All my life, I have heard people talking about seeing angels with wings and demons with horns. All my life, there's fire and hell, and the devil is in charge and is burning people up and tormenting people in hell with his demons. All my life, in heaven, everybody's walking around with white robes and everything is bright and light and shiny and beautiful. All my life, that's what I've heard. I don't know if I'm the oldest person on here, but I am 53 years old, and I've heard those stories my whole life. So when somebody says who grew up similar, and like you grew up Christian in America, and or just grow up listening, and because you see this on television, you see it in movies, you see all this stuff, and when they say I had an NDE and I went down to hell and the devil was down there tormenting people, which I always find odd, because according to the Bible, the devil ain't tormenting nobody. According to the belief in Christianity, the devil is not in charge of hell and the devil is not tormenting anybody. Go read Revelations. Oh, I'm not the oldest. Okay. But go read Revelations. That I think it's around 22 or 24, somewhere in the 20s. The devil ain't tormenting nobody. Everybody's thrown into the lake of fire. And if you read the books like Job, then the devil got to have permission from this God to do anything anyway. So the devil ain't tormenting nobody. That's not what hell is. Hell is not the devil in charge with a whole bunch of demons. You getting the same shit that the demons getting, right? So this idea of walking around in the white robes and gods and all this kind of stuff, and angels with the little fluffy wings and stuff, that's all created by pop cultures throughout centuries. So when people see these things and they talk about these things, all they're doing is they're getting what the mind has told them for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. That's what they're getting. When these children are saying it, they're getting what their parents have been telling them. And children will believe damn near anything your parents tell you. I told my children that when it's raining real hard, those are 10, 15,000 birds up in the sky spitting on you, because I couldn't get them jokers out the rain from playing in the rain. So I told them it was birds spitting. And for years, they believed that shit. Now it's a joke, but they believed it. So the mind is so powerful that it can cause you to be sick. Oh, Dwayne, you 59? Whatever. So the mind is so powerful. If they told you that this drug is supposed to make you sick, you will get sick. If they tell you that this drug is going to heal you, then you will heal. Your body will heal itself because your mind is telling it to heal. And if your mind is strong enough, you can tell your body what to do over and over again. So your mind is that strong. So when people have near-death experiences, remember, it's near death. It's not death. In order to say that you went to hell or heaven or whatever, you got to have death. And then here's the thing. When I was in Turkey, I talked to people who were Muslims. Who claimed to have near-death experience. They saw Muhammad. They saw the jinn. They didn't see none of the people that the Americans saw. When I talked to some of my Indus friends, when I would go to the temples and I would talk to some of them and ask them, those who had near-death experience, they saw Krishna, they saw Brahma. They didn't see none of the Jesus characters, the Lucifers, or none of them. The very few Zoroastrians that I talked to, they saw Agramenya, they saw Ahura Mazda, they saw Zoroaster. They didn't see Jesus. They didn't see Michael and Gabriel. I find it, if a person truly wanted to know, seek out the information of NDEs that other people in other cultures claim to have experienced. And when you realize, hopefully, that everyone's NDE is relative to the culture that they grew up in, it's the same as religion. Their NDE is exactly the same as religion is. If you were brought up Shinto, you are going to have a Shinto NDE. If you don't get killed by the Sentinel Island people, whatever their religion is, that's what kind of NDE those people had too. What Marcus said, I think you wrote this twice, so let me see. Do you think that many ancient cultures, like the ancient Egyptians, Greek, didn't literally believe in the mythologies they taught, but that they had to give mythology because they couldn't straight up tell you? I think the overwhelming majority of the people who lived in those cultures, that they honestly believed in those things. You know, you had people who died for those religions, died, you know, because they thought that they were doing the will of Zeus. They lived their life following those tenets. They thought that I'm a farmer, and if I pray to Reni Nutet, that Reni Nutet is going to send cobras into my fields so that it will eat the rats and I will have a great harvest. And so they didn't bother cobras. They didn't, you know, the wild dogs, they worshiped Anubis, and so they saw the benefit. I think these people believed in those mythologies. They had nothing else to prove otherwise. They literally thought, the Canaanites thought that Yahweh brought the rain or he brought the drought. And they would pray, and they sacrificed people. They sacrificed babies. They sacrificed for it. And the early Israelites sacrificed babies the same way for Yahweh, so they can believe in the storm deity. Or no, I think some of the elites probably didn't believe in that shit, but most of the people did. But back to NDEs. No one has ever died and came back with proof. So until somebody literally dies, and I remember when I was a kid, and some of you guys heard me say this before, when I was in high school, I wanted, the first job that I actually wanted, well, the second job, because at first I wanted to be a pilot, and the second job that I wanted was to be a surgical anesthesiologist. And when we had career day, I spoke to an anesthesiologist, and he was saying, even at that time frame in 1989, that he said that they are taught that there are at least 12 levels of death, of the consciousness being put to sleep, but that they only understand 3, and so they work with those 3 in order to put a person under. But there is still conscious activity beyond that, but they just don't know how to bring a person back if they go too far. That was the theory back then. I don't know, it's been what, 40 years now. I don't know where that information is right now, what depths of anesthesiology, of how they look at it, but that is a great field for understanding. If you wanted to research the conscious levels, that would be a great field to study, to look at read some papers on that, to figure out where the mindset is on people who actually work with the different levels of your brain. Now, one of the things that back to ND that happens when an NDE happens, is that DMT is released into your brain like you just took a big drink of ayahuasca. And DMT causes hallucinations. DMT causes you to see shit and access recesses of your brain that you couldn't understand, that you don't normally access. So many of these hallucinations from NDEs is just that drop, that big dose of DMT in the brain. And Samu, you're wrong. If you were to actually read Leviticus and look and read Leviticus, no, don't just read Leviticus. Go the early parts of Leviticus. Go get a PhD paper from a religious studies course, not a seminary. And what you will find is that the early Israelites practiced child sacrifice. Later on, they stopped. And when they stopped, they re-edited Leviticus to make it say that for every child born of the 12 tribes, then a Levitical priest will be the salvation basically for that child. And then if there weren't enough Levitical priests or the people of the tribe of Levi, then you just pay the Levitical priest, I think it's 25 pieces of silver for every son that is born. They didn't even have it for daughters. They only killed sons. And they practiced, but in the early time frame of the Bronze Age collapse, they practiced child sacrifice. They even have northern Israelite temples where they practice child sacrifice. And Samuel, you do understand that the Bible is not univocality, doesn't have univocality, right? It is not all speaking in one word. There are things that the Bible says early that you can do or can't do, and then they change it later on because it's written over hundreds of years. So as things are written over hundreds of years, the story changes. So yes, later on, the Israelites got rid of child sacrifice. I will give you that. But that doesn't negate the fact that in the 1000s BCE, in the 900s BCE, 800s BCE, they practiced the child sacrifice, which is commonly known as the Moloch. Yes, the DMT is the medical term called a surge before physical death. Right? Yes, it is. And that sends your mind into hallucinations. That is why people who go down and they do the ayahuasca, they're basically, you have a plant that makes pure DMT, but by itself, it doesn't work. Your body breaks it down too fast for you to be able to have the DMT hit your brain. So they figured out the Brazilian tribes and Mexican tribes, they figured out another plant to add to it. And that plant allows for the breakdown of the DMT to be much slow enough so that the DMT can hit your brain. So ayahuasca is just basically a process of dousing your brain with DMT in the same way it would happen when you start to have physical death. Yeah, I know you came in late, but to reiterate, no, I don't think spirits are walking around. I don't. I think most of the time people are either experiencing someone else's energy and your mind has been co-opted by that, or you have convinced yourself of such. Oops, now Renee said that okay, let's see. I had a spirit enter my home. My daughter is what you call a lightener. When she was a child, we never talked to our kid's spirit. My daughter had gone to the museum downtown Texas. What part of Texas? I'm in San Antonio. That's why I asked. The spirit followed her home. I felt something in our space, but I ignored it. Uh, but once my 8-year-old child came to become, once my 8-year-old child came to because the spirit was trying to get her attention. We knew someone who dealt with spiritual things, and she came to our home, and it was the spirit of a child. The child died tragically. We didn't get the rest of the dang story. I like how Samuel is showing all the parts where they stopped doing the Molech, but doesn't want to go find the parts where they actually was doing it. Testimony, I understand what you're saying, Renee, but testimony is not proof. You know, I could say that in one of my shroom experiences, I can say that I went and I met all these aliens, but did I really meet the aliens, or was that my love for Star Trek? Did I really meet the aliens, or was that my love for Battlestar Galactica and Star Wars and other sci-fi? Was it really the aliens, or is it the fact that I just don't think that I belong on Earth because humans get on my nerves? I can't prove, even if I believe that those were aliens, I have zero way of proving it. And without proof, I can't even believe it myself. I can't accept it as fact. It's like the four major religions agree that on one thing, and that spirit in every part of the world, everybody ain't lying. Yes, they can. Yes, they can be. And the reason why I say that they can be is because just because the majority of the people accept something doesn't mean that it's real. Remember, the majority of the people accept on the planet at one time frame felt that the earth was flat. Does that make it true? No. Now, what people are calling spirits could simply just be energy. Like you come up on a person and you can feel their energy, you can sense their energy, you can feel their brain, you can sense their thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And you and I could have just been tripping balls. You're absolutely right. Could have just been. And just things that were in my mind came out. And Samuel is still showing stuff that I agree with you. They stopped practicing child sacrifice. I'm just talking about that they originally did practice child sacrifice. Oh, I can't go up. But just because the world, I'm not making this. You know what? I'm not even going to use that as an example. So I don't even want to get started. How many people in this country are Democrats and how many are Republicans? Yet, such large quantities, and both think that they're right. Are they right? Who's right? All these people believe that there's a creator God and that this God fits into their book. Billions upon billions of people. 2 billion people believe in Allah, 2.6 billion people believe in Jesus. That make them right? Now this is where I'm gonna get down with Renee. And this is just, there's no way to prove this, people. There's no way to prove this. What happens to you after you die? Because there's a lack of evidence for all of this stuff. There is a serious lack of evidence. Because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Because our consciousness has to be, we know that our thoughts are energy. And our consciousness exists in our thoughts. That's what creates our thoughts. So when you leave the meat suit that you're in, your consciousness either flies away into billions of parts of energy and becomes part of everything else, and you cease to exist. But since likes like, whatever your consciousness and somebody else's consciousness, they're all merging together and bumping and hitting each other, and then they may gather again in some other baby. Or the parent's own consciousness merge together and creates the baby. But either your consciousness disperses, or your consciousness maintains its cohesiveness, and that consciousness, based on what you literally believe in, truthfully believe in, that becomes your existence after this existence. Has anybody ever proved that? No. Can I prove that? No. Can't prove either one. No. Now we can prove that all energy transmute. When your body dies, the energy of your body is going to become part of the ground, is going to become part of the air, it becomes part of the grass, it becomes part of the, when it becomes the grass, you know, Lion King, it becomes the gazelle eat it, it becomes part of the gazelle, part of the shit, which then becomes part of the ground again and recycles again, and part of the gazelle, the lion eat the gazelle, becomes part of the lion, becomes part of the shit, becomes part of the pea, becomes part of the lion itself, lion dies, it becomes, and your energy is just dispersing and reach and changing over and over again. This cigar, for billions of years, the energy of this cigar has been something else, millions of times over. And I'm burning it, and it is becoming something else. This is the epitome of transmutation of energy. That when I increase the vibration of the tobacco leaf, it burns, and the essence of the tobacco becomes smoke. It becomes whatever it is, wherever this smoke is going out that window. And some of it becomes part of me. Some of it's getting on the tar. Some of it gets on your face and gets on the walls. And then we clean the walls, and it goes in the trash, and it becomes all kind of other stuff. So yes, it's the circle of life. Why should our consciousness be any different? Unless we can show that it stays and maintains its cohesiveness. And it is too complex. And this is why I disagree with the Hindus, the Indus, and the Buddhists. If our consciousness stays together, your consciousness is too complex to become the grass or a bug or a cow or a goat or anything else, because it would know itself to be itself. Right? It would know itself. So you would know that as a piece of grass, you would know that you used to be who I see right now, John. You would know that you used to be John. If John became a blade of grass, John would know he was John. If John became a dog, John would know. If John became one of them sticks that he be whittling, that he, if John became one of his sticks that he makes, so John Spivey makes these, and he makes, but he does, these was his earlier ones. He does some great stuff. If John becomes one of these sticks, he would know that he is John. Therefore, if he knows that he is John, then his consciousness have lived for thousands of lives. He would know all those lives as well. If your spirit is stuck on earth and you're walking around as a ghost spirit, you would know you would know your whole life. Why would you haunt people that you don't know? Hurt people you don't know? Or are you walking around like Sixth Sense? You need to get something done, but people can't see you, so it drives you crazy. At the end of the day, we don't know. We have no idea whatsoever as to what happens to the being that knows itself to be Eric and Maria and Samuel and Crystal and Maria, the other Maria, and the Pastor Fields. We have no idea. But because man has a problem and a fascination with life after him, they fear death. We make shit up. Instead of saying, I'm here right now, and because I'm here right now, I'm going to live the most meaningful life I possibly can. I'm going to make my life as great as I possibly can. Make everybody around me's life as great as I possibly can. Instead, we look around and we see all the bad shit that's going on, and we say, ooh, I can't wait for the next life. It's kind of like moving from one city to another. I was on this thing where people who live here in San Antonio, and people like, I've been here for 3 days and I hate it here. They most likely hate it here because the bullshit they brought from wherever city they came from, they brought that bullshit with them. And I realized this in Christianity. Because I was told as a Christian, you're going to remember who you are. You're going to remember your parents, your family, all these other people. So that means you're going to take the same bullshit with you from earth that you're going to take it to heaven. So heaven is not going to be a heaven, because you and your bullshit going to fuck up heaven. Right. You bring, like Josie said, you bring your prison with you. Because let's think about the Christian heaven for a second. The Christian heaven is that there are 12 trees that produce fruits in season. And these are the trees of life. So you still need to eat from this tree of life in order to maintain your body, maintain your life in heaven. That you will be praising this God 24/7, day in and day out. And there is no night, because this God is supposed to be this illumination of light at all times. And there'll be angels circling around the throne of heaven screaming, holy, 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 holy. And Jesus will be sitting on the right hand side of God. The 12 apostles will be sitting below them. They are to judge the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is all that you will do. And then you will get bored, because unless this God has decided to take away your free will, to which you never had, but take away the free will that you think you have, you will get bored of this bullshit. And the same bullshit that happened in the first heaven, which is where the story of Lucifer or devil, Sam Haman, whoever, whatever name you want to give it, rebelled against this God. There will be another rebellion, because people are like, this is bullshit and I can do better. Yes, Christian heaven sounds awful. It is. I got in trouble for telling my grandmother one time, I'd rather go to hell and hopefully get a good job in hell, because I don't want to go to heaven, because heaven is boring. Because she told me that heaven was like being in church every day. And what 9-year-old wants to be in church every day? And these things change constantly. Like Crystal said, Black people in the Americas and in Europe during the slavery were told that they will not go to heaven. And if you were Mormon, if you did make it to heaven, you will serve the white people when you're in heaven. He said, if heaven has any connection to our world of sin, then it's not heaven. Is our world truly sinful? Is the universe sinful? Or is it just a balance of peace and chaos, all at the same time, of creation and destruction, all happening at the same time? Is that sin? And since nothing can be outside of our universe, where is this heaven? And then if the angels can fall, you know man will. Maybe somebody said something like that. What did she say? What did Maria say? Yeah, if angels can fall twice, what makes them think that people will be happy in this heaven? Exactly. We will not. We will not. So Renee was never connected to Christianity. I believe you love everyone and try living in peace. Religion is evil and causes hate and death. It certainly does. And heaven has to be connected to the ability to go against this God. I'm not even going to call it sin, because I think that it's great that there was a rebellion. If that story was true, I would be in support of the rebellion. Because how can, if there was no sin in this heavenly realm, then how can the angels rebel? How can they so-called sin and go against this God? Maybe they realized this guy was an evil, fanatical, narcissistic asshole and was like, nah, we don't want to be up here with you. And sin is most certainly a man-made conception. Sin constantly changes. For a time, it was a sin to do one thing, and then after a while, it's not so much a sin no more. You know, just like I was trying to explain to Samu, it wasn't a sin to do child sacrifice, and then later on, it becomes a sin to do child sacrifice. It changes. It depends on the culture. Depends on who's in charge. Who's ever in charge gets to decide what sin is and what sin is not. It's just like, so I'm not trying to make this political, so do not get into a political conversation. This is what kills me about people. You know, what's his name? Trump recently said that we should take Greenland and take Panama, the Panama Canal, right? And he is not against using the military to do so. People who follow him are like, yes, yeah, we should, and change it to the Gulf of America. Yeah. Now, if Biden had said that, those same people would be saying, oh, look, he's reinstating colonization and he's a tyrant and da 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 da. That's how people are. People will change their thought on something depending upon whose side they're on. And people are like that. Religion is no different. Like my man just said here, Geno Jennings thinks that it is a sin to dance in church, when the Bible says that David danced so hard for the Lord that he danced out his clothes, got butt naked for the Lord. And no telling what him and Jonathan did after he got butt naked. That's a whole nother video that I'm planning to do over the next couple of days. And yes, what Crystal, let me see if I can catch it. As a woman, the fact that that women are so sinful according to the book, that it then according to their book, then that means I need to find God made in my likeness, not the other way around. I I don't have to walk around feeling guilty about nothing. And you shouldn't. The Bible cannot stand women. Women, for the 3, 4 women that they promote as good, there's 9, 10, 12 that they cast them down as trash. And when they talk about women in general, women are trash in general in the Bible. So no, but it changes. And yeah, I wasn't trying to get political, but I'm just saying, I'm just using that as an example because we are so polarized in this country between Republicans and Democrats and Republicans are so polarized that The leaders can do the exact same thing. If it's the leader that you support, it's a good thing. If it's the leader that you don't support, it's a bad thing. Oh yeah. Rebecca was terrible in the Bible. That chick was horrible. I think I did a video about that. Have you heard of the Black Madonna? Yeah. It's a copy of a set in Hebrew from the Egyptians, and that the Pope go and he still bow down to it. Yep. Delilah was terrible. Look, Delilah was terrible. Tamar was terrible. Rebecca was terrible. Sarah was terrible. Hagar was semi-terrible. Um, Lot's wife is terrible. Eve is terrible. Who else is terrible? What's another woman that they make bad? Bathsheba was fearfully terrible because she didn't really have a choice in the matter. Look how they do it. Colossians, husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. Yet they stoned the shit out of them, huh? Oh, I think she cheated on me. Hey, priest, let's make up this potion out of some dirt and some herbs. If she has a miscarriage, then she cheated on me, and we're gonna take her and stone her ass. But if she don't, oh, my bad. I'm gonna pay y'all some money. She was a good woman. Oh, hey, let's kill all the men, the fighting men, kill all the baby boys and the old men, kill all the women who've known a man, and the young girls who haven't known a man, meaning they're virgins. Let's make them our wives. Yeah. Slave wives. We ain't gonna treat them harshly. That damn Ruth, ooh yeah, hey Boaz, you looking good. I'm gonna lay at the bottom of your feet in the wine press. And then after everybody go to sleep, we gonna get it on. Boaz, now don't tell everybody that I was sugar daddy and you, girl. Don't tell them I was being your sugar daddy. And then I'm gonna trick my oldest cousin into making sure that I can be your husband. Yeah, don't do that. They're some horrible ass people. Oh, I didn't even see Maria has said, what about Ruth? Ruth was a gold digger. She started out all right. Ruth started out all right. But that damn Naomi showed her how to be a gold digger. And she leaped at the opportunity. Oh, he leaving me some fresh stuff, not the little leftover shit at the end. Boaz. I'm gonna give you some ass, Boaz. And I used to laugh when I hear these when I was in church towards the end, and these women were like, "Yeah, girl, I'm gonna be Ruth, and I'm gonna find my Boaz." I was like, "Do y'all Boaz ain't gonna want your ass? Cause do you know what Ruth did? Ruth was turned to a gold digger for that old man." And remember, your pain, your redemption, women, are in the fact that you have pain during childbirth. I guess he didn't figure that we would come up with ways so women don't have pain during childbirth. That's what Josie said. She ain't a gold digger. She just don't mess with broke. Isn't that what a gold digger is? That the value of the man is based on his financial abilities? And Boaz, old drunk ass sugar daddy. Hey, I see that nice little fine girl picking up them scraps. Hey, fellas, leave her some of them scraps. Leave her a regular old bushel. Let's see what she do. She got dressed. She put on her little perfumes. Naomi was like, "Okay, girl, let me do your makeup. Let me beat that face." Ha 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 ha. And go in there and lay in the threshing floor and everybody sneak in there. Don't let nobody see you do it. That old man showing you some attention, girl. We about to come up because according to this religion, we can't own land. So we got to sell our pom pom in order to get this. So we go. So Naomi became the madam and sent Ruth into the wine press. to get pressed. You make Boaz sound like Ike Turner. I ain't saying he was whooping her ass, but once she came into the wine press and they spent the night there, and you know what they got, you know what they did. Then he gonna go to his cousin like, look, man, somebody, we gotta do something about this. Naomi and Ruth, you know, we got two broke ass women living in our community. What we gonna? Somebody need to marry them. I mean, older cousin is your responsibility. You know, I know you older though, and you know Ruth gonna want some children. I don't know if you want to start over because all your kids are grown. And he was like, shit, I don't want to deal with no young ass woman. Well, you know what, cuz I'll take her. I'll take her. My wife dead anyway. I'll take her. Here go my left shoe to seal the deal. Played that fool, and then got all the land that Naomi's husband used to own. Yeah, that's what them women in church be saying they want. You cannot demand men to be leaders and then say that man has no authority. Who said that? Who said that? Ain't nobody even talking about that. The Bible only talks about maybe 3 or 4 good women. I think Deborah was a judge or something like that. The one Martha, who was a rich woman who was helping out Jesus. Mary, Jesus' mama, is supposed to be a good woman, and Elizabeth is supposed to be a good woman. They don't really talk about them that much. And then you got Mary Magdalene, who they was once saying that she was a prostitute and a hoe. Then they just said that she had some demons in her. But then they saying some believe that she was the wife of Jesus. They don't really talk about women in a good light. And you really don't find them in the Old Testament. So if you read the Bible, wait a minute, where we go? If you read the Bible like a scoundrel, you can actually come up with some pretty good game. You sure could. You can scam some people out of land and get the women and everything. And here's the thing, like she's saying, Crystal is saying that's why religious men hold on for dear life. I don't have my reading glasses. Hold on for dear life to that book. It's the only way they're gonna get some poochie cat. It is. The entire the entire Bible, you can find where it is trying to control the sexuality of a woman, and not so much because they want to control the sexuality of a woman. They want to control their inheritance, the money. You see, just like when they said, when I think it was Moses who finally said, oh yeah, women can have an inheritance. But if they marry somebody outside of the 12 tribes, then they're going to lose that inheritance. It's all about keeping the money in house. I need to control your sexuality so that I can know for sure that this baby is mine. And in that way, my money goes to my children, not yours, not some other man's child, right? Even to this day, most men don't want to pay for or give benefits to another man's child. It's the same way with the Bible. The men didn't want to do it either. That's why they had the whole thing. If a woman is found to not be a virgin upon being married, then she is to be stoned. How did they prove it? Put a piece of cloth under her pum pum when they have sex the first time. If there's blood on it when they first have sex, then she was a virgin. If there's no blood, then she's been having sex with somebody else, and she must be stoned. Now, I know a young lady whose hymen didn't break until she had a baby, because her man had a little bitty ping ping, had a little ping ping. Josie, I think you can find that in Judges is where you'll find that whole thing, that whole situation. But he had a little ping ping, so he never broke his wife's hymen. Her hymen broke when she actually had their child. Now there are other women who, when they first have sex, their hymen is broken, but they still don't bleed. So those women were declared to be, you know, fast. Here's the funny thing: what men in the Bible were punished for their sexual misdeeds? Let's see. You have Onan. Onan was jizzing on the floor and wouldn't produce a baby with Tamara, so that they didn't, so that his child with her would be claimed for his older brother. So he was supposedly killed for that. Uh, let's see. David didn't. He didn't receive the punishment. This guy killed the baby for David's sexual misdeeds. All those men, when what's her name? One of Jacob's only daughter that is mentioned. Her name starts with a D. When she was sexually assaulted by this king, this prince of this other town, they punished those men for his sexual misdeeds, and he died too. But 99% of the time, no, a man is not punished for any sexual misdeeds. As a matter of fact, when the woman who supposedly, which is a story that was added to the Bible in and around the 2nd century and wasn't part of any 1st century writings, and there are very few 1st century writings in the first place, they only brought the woman to Jesus. They didn't bring the man. And when Jesus spoke to the woman at the well, he chastised her and didn't say nothing about the men she was sleeping with. So no, men don't get chastised in this book for their sexual misconduct for the most part. Most of the time, it's the women. Sodom and Gomorrah doesn't really apply to that. They wanted to, because they felt those angels had disrespected their town. That's why they wanted to sodomize them. You have a similar story in Judges, but in the Judges story, the men are killed for raping to death his concubine, but he gave the concubine to them. You think he'd been punished just for doing that? You know, is the Bible is stupid. Well, women control sexuality. That's why sexuality is focused on. That is not why sexuality is focused on women. It's so focused on women because when a woman has a baby, you know that baby came from that woman. That's her baby. When a woman has a baby, you can't prove back in those days. You couldn't prove who baby that was, who the daddy was. So the only way of doing that is to control the woman's sexuality, control who she sleeps with. We don't live in those times. That's why, you know what? That's a good video for tomorrow. How this Bible got so many rules that if this guy was really God, he wouldn't have wrote those rules because eventually those rules don't matter. We know who we can find out who the daddy is. Yes, the Bible is very stupid. The Bible is just written. It's kind of like if you read anything that's 500 years old and older, and really not even that far back, you can read things that are 50, 60 years old. It's all based on the time frame of the culture of that day. Like it's this YouTuber that I started listening to, and it's real fun. It's just funny. I like, and I forgot what it's called, but he talks about these movies that don't age well, right? And if you looked at some of these 80s movies, they were misogynistic as hell, very misogynistic. And some of the things that they did in these 80s movies, if you put that in a movie today, hell no. People would lose their shit. Like the movie Soul Man, and I'm talking about the old movie Soul Man, where the white dude wanted to get this scholarship. It has Ray Don Chong in it. If for y'all who don't know what that is, that's remember Cheech and Chong, that's Chong's daughter, where he takes this scholarship that was meant for black people, and he went through some process to make his end black. And he took the scholarship because he was a rich white kid whose parents weren't going to pay for him to go to college. So he's blackfacing the whole time. You couldn't make that movie today, right? It wouldn't work. They'd get canceled. There was another movie back in the 80s where the girl wanted to be taken as a serious writer, so she dressed like a boy the whole time and was acting like a boy, dressed like a boy, went to another school. And some of the shenanigans that happened in that movie, you couldn't write that shit today. They wouldn't let you. So the Bible is like that. It's written at a time frame where 99% of the shit that they talk about, nobody writing a Bible about God today would write that stuff in it. You wouldn't put it in there. You wouldn't put in there that if your children are disobedient, take them to the elders, and then the men of the town come and stone that kid to death. Nobody would write that today. That's crazy. You and the townsmen are going to jail for murder, child abuse, all kinds of stuff, assault with a deadly weapon. Y'all going to jail. You can't. Oh, Blazing Saddles. I haven't seen the guy do Blazing Saddles. I'm going to suggest that he do Blazing Saddles because there's no way Blazing Saddles could be written today, could be made today. I've never read this because I stopped reading York's work back in the like 91 is when I was like, I'm not dealing with Malachi York because he crazy. And then he wound up having his whole stuff shut down. I think it was about 90. Yeah, it was about 90, 91 when I was reading his stuff. And you're right, money and sex never changes. That is one of the cornerstones of the thoughts of human society. Said there was a woman who portrayed a man that portrayed a man in today's society and ended up committing suicide. True story. I wish you had a name. That would be interesting to read. Yes, and child abuse is still going on, is out of control. And these people, I did a video yesterday about the pastor in Virginia who shamed that little girl by making her come up in front. Somebody said, I saw today, somebody said that the drummer was the baby daddy. If that is true, why didn't the drummer have to come up there and apologize? Why just the girl? I can't say that York is innocent. I can only go by what we have, but I know when I went down there to his site, to his place, that was enough for me to walk away, and I saw that this shit is a damn cult. This shit is mind control. Because I'm from Atlanta. So I went down to Waycross, Georgia to go visit Malachi York's facilities. And I spent a day and a half there. And I was like, nope, these motherfuckers crazy. And that was in 91, I think. Let's see. I went to Desert Storm. That was when I came back from Desert Storm. That was when I met Carlos. So if that was when I met Carlos, no. So that was when I met Carlos. So that had to be, no, that was 91 when I met him. We either went there in 91 or I went there in 92. But anyway, whenever I went there, I was like, this man, these people crazy. But it was sounding good. It was black. Nuwampu, white knowledge. The Bible is black. He stole it from the black man. Well, Josie, if you think he's innocent, you are well within your right to believe that. But I do know that when I went to visit, that shit smacked of what we saw in Waco, Texas with David Koresh, Jim Jones, in, where were they at? Panama, Nicaragua? Nope. Who's making the determination as to what is sin? Who's the authority? Whoever wrote the Bible, and then whoever is interpreting. And we're only speaking on Christianity, but for all religious books in today's world, whoever is interpreting those books are the ones who determine what's sin and what's not sin. There's only a few things, very few, that I say is wrong. Stealing from someone, wrong. Murdering someone, wrong. Essaying someone, wrong. Things like that, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, wrong. Other things are based on your culture and your upbringing. No one wrote the Bible. Yes, they did. A whole bunch of people wrote it. See, the problem is you thought that I said the person. I said the writers of the Bible. Who all the people who contributed to writing it at different times over hundreds of years. And all of them weren't Hebrews, my guy. And they copied a lot of stuff from a bunch of different people. And see, the hard part about this statement, Al, is only if you believe these man-made Bibles. When you're brought up as a child, it's hard to break away from it. The whole purpose of me starting this channel was to be a sounding board, but also a guide for people who have done what I did decades ago, which is the hard thing of walking away from this religion. What? The Hebrews started it, my guy. What does the Bible start with? The Old or the New Testament? The original people who were called Hebrews were originally Canaanites, who took the Canaanite religion and made it into their own variation of the religion. Instead of worshiping El initially, they began to worship Yahweh, who was the son of El and Asherah. Later on, editors then changed it and made Yahweh the husband of Asherah and Baal and Mot their sons. Then later on, they got rid of Asherah in around the 5th century BCE, got rid of Asherah and made El this eternal God. So they've changed it over and over again. And those are the writers. But yes, those are the people who would call themselves Hebrew. But sort of what? Who cares? It's made up. At the end of the day, you can't prove one thing in the Old Testament other than places that existed and a few people that they possibly more than likely existed, but you can't prove none of the miracles and all the other bullshit. You can't even prove the places that they claim they conquered. And that should be one of the easiest things. Hey, we conquered these people. No, you didn't. Those people were still around. What are you talking about? According to some interpretations of it, the Hebrews killed all the Moabites. But then later on, here's Ruth, a Moabite. How the hell that happened? Now you're getting it. No, I've been got it. I got that it's a bunch of bullshit. Saying that, oh, it must be valid because the Hebrews wrote it is like saying, oh, the Kemetic story must be valid because the people of Cush wrote it. Or the Greek story is valid because the Greek people wrote it. Or the Shinto story is valid because the Japanese people wrote it. Or the Hindu is right because the original writings of the Upanishads was written by actual Indus people, even though Europeans came and changed their religions later on. But because they wrote it, that made it true. Hebrews ain't special. Oh, my bad. My bad, Maestro. Look, man, you want me to keep up with your thing. There's over 80 people on here and they are commenting all the time. I can't see everything. But thank you for the correction. Oh, I didn't say it. But for those of you who have been supporting the channel, I talked about it earlier when I was messing with Prima. But for those who have been supporting the channel, thank you. I didn't say thank you earlier. Thank you. Do a call-in show Monday. My wife has given me permission. I told her that I should do more lives, so she agreed. But I did say how many lives would not interfere with our life and we'd be good. So we decided three a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So Monday, we'll do a call-in show. But I often offer call-ins almost every day, every show, especially after I've talked whatever I wanted to talk about. But hell, I ain't get to talk. I never get to talk about things the way I want to on a live anyway. I'll always mess it up and ask me 11 questions. And Dave, you might be right to what Josie is saying that York might be innocent, and he very well could be. They may have set him up. I don't know. But what I do know is when I went down there, they was worshiping him like he was a god. Then the other part, his teachings, I found his teachings even in 91 or 92, whenever that was. I think it was 92. Yeah, because that's when I used to go up to Virginia with Carlos. So it had to be 92. Even when I was reading and I took I took a bunch of his pamphlets with me when I went on a 6-month cruise with the Navy. And I studied the shit out of them, comparing them to archaeology and all this kind of stuff. And I found his stuff to be just as unreliable as the Bible. All he really did was turn the Bible black and enhance some of the black characters. It's still not valid information. You can't even prove King David existed. You can't. Noah didn't exist. Moses didn't exist. So when York was talking about Moses and Noah, they never existed. So how is this information valid? Have I done a video on why I left Christianity? I've done several. But in a nutshell, because I studied the Bible, I went to a lot of the places that the Bible talks about. I studied archaeology. I read 11 different PhD papers and what do you call that thing when you're writing for your doctorate, your dissertation. I read a whole bunch of dissertations. And I didn't read I did read some seminary ones, but I found the seminary ones were forcing information to fit into the Bible when archaeology says otherwise. What about Solomon? It's possible. See, there's a slight possibility that David and Solomon did exist. Did they do the shit that they claim they did? Building a temple? Sure, possibly, more than likely. But all the other stuff about them, having all these wives and concubines and the Queen of Sheba and having the Menelik the First and all, now flying on a magic carpet ride, the Ark of the Covenant and all that stuff, having powers. No. Summoning demons and having demons build the temple. No. And the summoning demons part, that's in the Keys of Solomon. I am not saying that is in the Bible itself. That is in the Keys of Solomon. So before anybody say something. See, you're missing what I'm saying. The Assyrians record does corroborate that there was a Israelite kingdom around 800 BCE, and that he conquered the northern kingdom of Israel. That kingdom in 800 BCE was not ruled by Solomon, nor was it ruled by David. So you can say that, I think Hezekiah was their king at the time frame. So you can say that Hezekiah existed because the Assyrian king Sennacherib wrote about how Hezekiah paid him a bribe to not conquer Jerusalem after he had already conquered the majority of northern Israel. So you can say that Hezekiah existed. Does that mean that an angel of God came down and killed 180,000 of Sennacherib's men? No. Sennacherib says that he withdrew his men after Hezekiah paid him a tributary, which it was common in those days for a nation state to become a vassal state of a larger kingdom. Like for a long time, and during the time of Jesus, supposedly, the supposed Jesus character, Judea was its own nation, but it was a vassal state to Rome. It wasn't until later on that Rome was like, nah, to hell with y'all. Y'all know what y'all doing. And they actually literally conquered Judea in 70 AD. But you don't have proof of Moses and Joshua and them going around and conquering all these people, conquering the people of Ai and conquering the Canaanite people in Jerusalem. As a matter of fact, the walls of Jericho actually came down in 1500 BCE and were not rebuilt until 1000 BCE. So the Israelite kingdom most likely started around 1000 BCE at the earliest 1100 BCE. Now, the Jericho story is completely invalidated because that would have had to have happened around 1200, 1300 BCE. So there was no walls falling down because they blew some trumpets. But during the Bronze Age collapse, the Levant, new kingdoms rose up. Not denying that. The Israelite kingdom rose up during the Bronze Age collapse. Perfectly valid. Does that mean David was their king? No. Does that mean Solomon was their king? Doesn't mean that at all. The first king of the Israelites that we can validate would be Hezekiah. That's it. All the other stories is just a made-up history for people. And people embellish, just like my man Boondocks is saying right here. Vlad the Impaler is what Dracula's stories were about. But Vlad doesn't make him a vampire. He's not still walking around biting necks, sucking blood. He might have bit some necks, but he wasn't biting it like that. He was nibbling on the neck. He was a little nibble. And the Bible doesn't validate history. That's the problem. You see, that's the problem. Now, is it possible that in the building of the Northern Israelite kingdom in and around that time frame, that area, that they conquered some of the neighboring city states? Sure. Does that mean Joshua did it? No. Does that mean that your God was in charge of it? No. Because at the same time that you have What was it? I just did a video about this about a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago. What was it? The Mesha stele. At the same time that you have in the Bible where it says that God, Yahweh, backed away from the Israelite people because they wasn't acting right, is the same time that King Mesha, who said that he was under occupation by the Israelites, well, his father was, and he was under occupation. His god Shamash, because they worshiped Shamash correctly, gave them victory over the Israelites. So you can validate that the Israelites conquered the Moabite people, and then Mesha came back and retook his property, his land, and conquered some other lands. According to Mesha, Shamash gave the Israelites over to them, to the Moabites. But according to the Bible, Yahweh allowed for that to happen. You see how that is? Whoever's writing the story writes it to their favor. And because of that, because of the Mesha stele, you do have, I think that's where you have Ahab and Ahaz, if I'm saying that right, where we will say that Ahab and Ahaz existed because it's corroborated by the Mesha stele from another source. But you don't have any other sources of David. You do have sources of Hezekiah through Sennacherib. And so you can, some of these other people, Manasseh, you can validate, I don't know about Manasseh, but you can validate some of these other people from outside sources. But what it doesn't validate is your God. That doesn't validate your God. We can prove that somebody like John Henry existed, but does that mean that he cut through a mountain with a damn hammer and a pickaxe in one afternoon? If you're going to believe the Bible and the miracle of these people, then you need to believe John Henry. You need to believe Johnny Appleseed and Paul Bunyan and all these other folks too. David Crockett, all of them. Look, there's a reason why comic books exist. Because people like fantasy. You ever notice that people like him never really want to, they don't say anything about the fact of all these little fake miracles and all that. But they won't say, oh, these people existed. Okay. But prove the miracle happened. Prove that this God was in play. Prove that part. What do you think about Yahweh's wife Asherah? The Northern Kingdom worship Yahweh and Asherah. They discovered Asherah dolls in Jerusalem. They also discovered her pole, because they would put a pole up. The larger pole was Yahweh, the smaller pole was Asherah, and that's where they put their gifts to them, their sacrifices to them. So the Northern Kingdom worshiped Asherah and Yahweh as her husband. It was the Southern Kingdom of Judah after the Babylonian captivity where they said, no longer will we worship in this same way, and we're going to make Yahweh El, and we're going to get rid of Asherah. So the Northern Kingdom of Israelite, the original, at first they worshiped both. They worshiped both of them. The Southern Kingdom switched after the Bronze Age, after the Babylonian captivity, and it's then that influence took over the North, but the North was pretty much in shambles anyway, took over the North, the Northern Kingdom. And it didn't matter too much because soon after the Babylonian captivity, they were conquered by the Greeks. Well, they were conquered by the Persians, which was the release from them out of Babylon, and then they were conquered by the Greeks. So these people have been conquered and been a vassal state most of their existence. This is about the only damn thing that me and Shamu gonna agree on. Miracles are considered like magic to people, but miracles are just a matter of using physics. I will agree 100%. It is nothing but the law of cause and effect. And for those causes that people, for those effects that people don't know what the causation is, they call it miracle, luck, chance. But here's the thing. It doesn't prove the Bible to be right, nor does it prove it God. So the Prince of Persia was kicking Gabriel's ass until Michael came down. And then that's when Daniel, I think it was Daniel, was finally able to get a message from Gabriel. That part? No. No. That's just some made up stuff. Not to be a stickler, but I would change ego to super ego, or the id. I would change it to the id, actually. We have bastardized the hell out of Sigmund Freud's explanation of breaking down in his creation of the ideas of the id, the ego, and the superego. The ego is actually the part of you that is trying to balance the superego. The superego is the unified thought of the culture and the people around you. The id is that instinctive part of you that wants what it wants and want to have what it wants to have and don't give two shits about other people. The ego is trying to balance those two to put you in the best situation. So we've bastardized that thing. I don't know when it started, but it is the id that is the destructive part. The superego is to go along with whatever the group think is, and the ego is trying to balance it. So I would say it's the id. Yeah. The other thing I went to school for was psychology, so it always throws me off when we mess up the id, ego, and superego. Oh, that coffee is so good. Good coffee. Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? I like how active you guys are. I'm sorry I can't read everybody's stuff and I don't see everybody's stuff because it goes up too fast sometimes. I swear, somebody's gonna create a new version. Super ego overlaps. Yeah, like so not to go into politics again, but politics is just a good example of it. The way people just sheepishly follow Republicans and Democrats is the super ego at work. It supersedes what's best for you and it supersedes your instinctive thought. And you just going along with the crowd. And so you think that whatever your party does is right, what the other party does is wrong. Your ego is the part of you that is saying that that shit really ain't right. And your ego allows for you to step away from it and see it for what it really is and maybe not be a part of it anymore. Now your id is just looking at, well, if I'm rich, this party is to my best benefit. So I'm gonna go with what they say, even though I don't agree with the shit that they talk about, but I'm gonna go with what they say. You know, it's because it benefits me and I get out what I want. And I don't care what it does, how much damage it does to everybody else. See? But the ego is where that balance is at. Like the super ego, and if you're a Republican, I'm not trying to pick on you, but I find this so funny right now. The super ego is all those Republicans who were sitting up there saying, yeah, we got to get rid of Obamacare. We got to get rid of Obamacare. And then when Trump was like, we're going to get rid of what is it called? The CARES Act, the something CARES Act, Healthcare Act, whatever it was called. The actual name of it is, why is he taking away my health benefits? That's what the Obamacare was. They just renamed it that. That's not the original name of it. But you were so caught up in the superego, you didn't even recognize that you was damaging yourself, and now you're complaining that your health care is being taken away, right? So what is it called? What is not called Obamacare? It's called the universal health plan program, something. But I've just seen a whole bunch of videos over the last few weeks where a bunch of Republicans were complaining that their health care that is going away, and they liked it, but they wanted Obamacare to go away. But it's the same goddamn thing. They were Affordable Health Care Act. Thank you. But they were so caught up in the super ego of what the party was saying. Obamacare, no, down with Obamacare. I like the Affordable Health Care Act because it's got me, I was able to get health care insurance. Oh, wait, the thing that you want to get rid of is the thing that I like. But you were so ready to get rid of it when they called it Obamacare. Thank you, everybody, for Affordable Care Act. All right. So that's the super. I'm not trying to be political. I'm just saying that's how the super ego works. And then the ego get caught, and it's like, oh shit, your id and your ego is like, oh, what the hell? Is that what that was? Damn. I didn't mean for you to do that. But a lot of these videos where these people who do those type of videos, I think it's funny. And it goes on both sides. Both sides do the same shit. So I'm not picking on one side over the other. You know, it's just that's a recent thing that I saw that was funny. I'm glad I have the VA. And then you start messing with the VA, I don't care what side of the fence you on. I'm gonna have problems with you. I'm gonna have problems with you. But most people actually fall under the super ego more so than recognizing how to balance these things with their own ego to get what's best for them. If they're not following the super ego, then you have the people who are following their id, which is I'm just doing shit for self and I can give two rat's asses about everybody else. Michael Scroggins, have you been there? Been where? Renee said that there's two different Renees, so I don't want y'all thinking it's the same one. I had free health care insurance until the Affordable Care Act came on. Yeah, the Affordable Care Act hurt a lot of people. Some people had better health care with their companies. And then when the Affordable Care Act came, their companies, I don't know if this is what happened to Renee, but I saw a lot of companies that were like, oh, y'all can go get the Affordable Care Act? Well, this health insurance that we as a company been paying for, we're getting rid of that. Y'all go over there and get some of that. A lot of people who voted for Obama and was like, yeah, Affordable Health Care Act, everybody should have health care, have health care. But they didn't realize how some of these companies would respond to it, and you got screwed. Not trying to make a political show. I used to be very political. I stepped away from that, but it's just a good example of the ego, the super ego, and the id. That's all we was talking about. We're not going to get in there. We're not going to go there. I'm dipping out of that right now. Okay, I figured that's what your company was doing. I figured that's what your company was saying. A lot of companies did that. If you were a smaller company, like when the first time I had over 5 employees, no, it was 5, it was 10. First time I had over 10 employees, I had to start offering healthcare in the state of Georgia. And when I did, I saw how much I had to pay, and everybody became 1099 because I was like, my company is not going to last, not at this level. That shit had to go. Y'all are 1099 employees. I will not take y'all taxes no more. But not talking about politics. Oh boy asked me, was I there? But he didn't say where, so oh well, whatever. All right, let's get off this political shit. Yes. You seem to come in late all the time. We start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Okay. No, Stephanie is a great supporter of the channel, so I appreciate her. Just a little picking, just a little picking, just a little picking. I'm not talking about politics no more. I was just using that as an example. That's why I didn't want to use that example, because people get caught up, and I don't like talking about politics no more. I used to be real bad. You know you all right with me, Stephanie. You all right. Oh, so Stephanie, I am starting a voiceover channel. It's going to be stupid. I'm just going to have fun with it. But I remember talking to you about it like a long time ago, and I'm going to start one. So thank you for your encouragement years ago when you made that comment about doing voiceovers. But the way I'm gonna do it is just out of just plain stupidity. So that part. But yeah, we are. What time is it? It is 9:30. We are coming to a close, my people. My people. So here's the new thing. I have been encouraged by my lovely bride to do more lives. So the schedule will be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of doing lives. And they will all start at 8 p.m. is when I would do it. Oh. Oh, well, I appreciate that. So I'm gonna put my email address on here. This for Stephanie, y'all. Even though this email address is available for anybody, but send me information. I'll tell you about what I want to do, Stephanie, and then we can go from there. Yeah. So just send me an email, and we'll go from there. Even though I know you already got that email address, but just in case. So we are going to get off. Oh, Sheila, you lost me for a while. I'm glad you found me. All right, glad to see you too, Brian. But we about to get off. So you're gonna have to do some Memorex and start from the beginning. We got to talk about the subject matter for probably about 45 minutes to an hour, so that was good before we went off the rails here. Yes, Josie, it was fun. It is all in fun. I leave this with no malice towards anybody. Anybody who disagrees with comments, that's fine. I mean, we're good. It's all about discussion and talking and, spreading the good news of thinking for yourself. So I will see you guys again live on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If something goes awry in my day, I will let you know. And if you want to support the channel, that's the best way to do so. And I appreciate it. Also, like, share, subscribe. Make sure your bell icons on YouTube is on for the channel. That way you will get notifications when we go live. On Facebook, I think you can set your notifications on Facebook as well. So set it up. No, Terrence, I do not miss Georgia. I am loving Texas, my guy. Texas is great. It's a little dusty here in San Antonio, but Texas is great. Even though it was cold today at like 62 degrees, it was like 30 something in Atlanta. So I do not miss Georgia at all. And I can't wait for the hell hot summer because I'd rather have hell hot. But I am loving Texas. So no, I do not miss Georgia. I miss my mom and my daughters. Sure. My brother. Well, I talk to his ass almost every day. But yes, other than that, no. Wait. Okay, before I go, I gotta say this. Boondocks, I rebuke you for your statement in the name of the all, and that the all must always be the all and can never not be the all. I rebuke that statement. We shall not have snow in San Antonio. I don't like that evil white shit that falls from the sky. Hell no. So y'all have a what happened to Wilmington? We just moved to Wilmington temporarily to help Angelina's parents get, you know, they're already set up for their retirement because they're already retired, but just to help them out on a few things, lifestyle things. And so that was temporary. That was temporary. So, all right, guys. Appreciate it. Real eyes, you're late. You got to start it over. Y'all have a great day. And I'll share all the videos, watch all the videos, share all the channels. Make sure your notifications are on. And I will see you guys live again Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And thank you for supporting the channel. Y'all have a great one. Always remember that you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. And I post at the end of every video on my regular videos on Facebook, the link to get these shirts are posted there. So yeah, y'all I'm gonna start posting this link on the YouTube channels as well. So y'all have a great day, and I will see y'all later. And ain't nobody coming up and getting no damn snow. Deuces.